Hi there, future paraprofessional, and welcome to lesson number 7 of your ParaPro test prep course. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at tables, diagrams, charts, and graphs. And if we navigate over to the official ParaPro study companion, we can see that in reading competency number 7, it reads that examinees need to be able to demonstrate their understanding and ability to interpret information from tables, diagrams, charts, and graphs. And so what we've done is we've collected all of the different types of visual representations that you'll need to know for exam day so that you'll have a great refresher and you'll be totally prepared when taking your ParaPro exam. So let's get started with tables. As you can see on your screen right here, looks like we have Lily's study schedule. Down below that, we've got some context, so let's read that together. Below is a table showing the amount of time she spent studying for her classes. Review the table below to answer the questions. Now, what we can see is we have a table with 3 columns, and let's see here, looks like 6 rows. We have Monday through Friday plus the top row giving us the heading. We've got the day, the subject, and the amount of time that Lily spent studying. So what I'm going to do is we are going to be looking at different visual representations that you'll want to be familiar with for your exam, and then we'll be answering 2 different questions. So what I would like you to do right now is log into the teacherpreps.com ParaPro assessment and make sure that you complete these 2 questions along with the ones below it. Then come back to check your responses together. All right, now let's have a look at what we can see and the information we can gather from the table. All right, so we have the days, the subject, and the study time. And let's go ahead down and complete the questions right now. So question number 1 reads, how many subjects in total did Lily study for this week? And we can see that math, history, science, reading, and music, there are no overlaps or subjects that were repeated, so we can see that there are a total of 5. So we're going to go down here and click the 5. All right, now question number 2 reads, which subject did Lily use the least amount of time to study for? So let's navigate back up to the table and have a look. Math was 30 minutes, history 25, 35, 60, and 60. So it looks like history was the least amount of time she spent studying for. Let's see. Okay, good. There is a history answer option. Now what we'll want to do is we'll want to click this submit button, and we scored 2 out of 2. So that's great. All right, now let's go ahead down and look at our next visual representation, which is a pie graph. And you'll notice below each of the tables, charts, diagrams, there is an introduction to give you a refresher about what these particular types of diagrams are best for. So let's read about the pie chart. So pie charts visually represent data as slices of a circle where each slice corresponds to a fraction or percentage of the total. Remember that the entire chart sums up to 100%, encapsulating all of the components of the data set into a cohesive whole. All right, so let's look at the pie chart we're given. The title reads student feedback. And if we have a look, we have, looks like 5 different inputs here, written, face-to-face, audio, and recordings. These must be student feedbacks. And of course, just as I mentioned in the introduction, the entire pie graph should equal 100%. So let's double check that that is the case. Here we have 25 and 25, that's 50, and then 10 and 40, that's 50, and 50 and 50 is 100. So now let's go ahead. I feel like I have a good grasp of this diagram, and we can read the questions. Looks like Mrs. Fisher, this is probably a teacher. Note that on your paraprofessional exam, you will more than likely be given scenario-based questions in order for you to demonstrate your ability to analyze and evaluate these diagrams. So let's read question number 1. This says, the pie graph shows the distribution of how students in Mrs. Fisher's class prefer to receive feedback on their assignments. Okay. Which form of feedback was preferred by the largest percentage of students? So what we want to do is we want to find the largest percent. That looks like it was written comments. So let's go down here, find written comments, and that is C. All right, great. Now question number 2 reads, according to the pie graph depicting Mrs. Fisher's class feedback preferences, what percentage of students prefer audio recordings for their feedback. So let's go ahead and look specifically for audio. This looks like 10% of students wrote that they prefer an audio feedback. So we'll go and we'll mark the 10%, click the submit button, and we scored 2 out of 2. Good. Now, you will notice that not only the visual representations or the diagrams, but also the questions grow from simple to complex. So these questions and the diagrams get harder and harder. Let's move on to a pictograph. We'll first have a look at what the pictograph looks like, read the title, Students' Participation in After-School Activities. Great. Now, to recall, a pictograph simplifies data visualization by using images or symbols to represent numerical values, facilitating quick, comprehension of trends and quantities. This visual tool is especially effective for presenting straightforward data sets engagingly and accessibly. All right, so now notice here how there is a short list of after-school activities: sports, music, art, and drama. And always remember to look for the key. Looks like 1 star here represents 10 students. So we have sports, music, art, and drama. For example, sports would be 10, 20, 30, and then this looks like a half. This also looks like a half, meaning sports has a total of 35 participants in this after-school activity. Let's go down and read the pictograph questions. Question number 1 reads, according to the pictograph, which after-school activity has the most participation? All right, so sports, music, and it looks like art. So we're going to go down and we're going to choose art. Okay, now let's go down and read question number 2. According to the pictograph, how many students in total are enrolled into an after-school activity? That means we're going to have to find the sum of all of these different after-school activities. So what I'm going to first do is add up the whole numbers. Remember that 1 star equals 10 participants. So it looks like we have 3 here and 3 here, that's 6. And we have 4 here, that's 4 and 6 is 10, plus 2 more is 12. And if we add the half stars, that would give us a total of 13. 13 times 10 is 130, or 130 students. So let's see if we have an answer option that is 130. Good. We'll click the submit button, and great, we scored 2 out of 2. Doing great, and let's go on next to the bar graph. We can look down below and read the title that reads Maximum Operating Speeds of High-Speed Trains by Country. So this is pretty cool. 5 different countries have high-speed trains and their corresponding speeds. Now, just to recall, a bar graph displays data using rectangular bars to represent different values, allowing for easy comparison across categories. It is particularly useful for illustrating variations in size among its items in a data set, providing a clear visual differentiation that aids in quick analysis and decision making. All right, so I notice we have Japan, France, Germany, China, and Morocco. Let's go on down and navigate to read question number 1 of the bar graph quiz. Based on the bar graph shown, which 2 countries have the same train operating speed? I didn't see that. Okay, I do now. Looks like down below we have the actual speeds. So 320 and 320, that correlates to Japan and France. Okay, so we're going to be looking for Japan and France. Here we go. Japan and France. Just to double check, that is Japan and France. Okay, looks good. Question 2 reads, what is the range of the high-speed train speeds shown in the bar graph? So the range. Range being the keyword, remember we have mean, which is the average, mode, which is the number that is shown most often. We have median, which is the number in the middle when you put the numbers in ascending order or from smallest to largest. And then we have the range, which takes the largest number minus the smallest number. And so let's have a look. What is the largest number? That's 460 minus the smaller number. That looks like 310. And if I just do some math here, that would be 150. 460 minus 310 is 150. So let's move on down, and good, there is a 150. So let's click the submit button, and again, we got 2 out of 2. Great job so far. Now let's take a look at a line graph. And if you can recall, A line graph is best used to connect individual data points with a line to illustrate trends over time, making it ideal for showing changes and developments in data. This type of graph is particularly useful for visualizing continuous data. Now, I also want to bring to your attention, on exam day, you might receive a question that asks you if a teacher would like to, for example, show trends over time, which visual representation would be most effective. And in this case, that would be a line graph. So notice how you're not only going to want to know what a certain diagram is, but also why it's more useful, and then, of course, how to read this. So let's look at how to read a line graph. So I can move this over here. This line graph looks like this is the price of Ford F-150s over time, moving from 1990 to 2020, and there's been a steady increase. Now, on the left side, I can see a corresponding table, again, the same years, and then we can actually see the price in US dollars, 12,000, 14,000, 16,000, all the way to 2020's price of a Ford F-150 of $42,000. I'm assuming this is a new price. All right, so line graph, let's read the first question. From which year to which saw the greatest price hike? All right, so what I want to do is I just kind of notice, I kind of step back, look at it from the bird's eye view. It looks like from 1990 to 2011, there was a steady increase. So there wasn't a major price hike increase, and we can validate that by looking from 1990 to 1993, it was a price increase of 2,000. Again, price increase 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, until we reach from 2011 to 2014, there's actually a price increase of 4,000. And then from 2014 to 2017, it looks like there's a price increase of 5,000. And then from 2017 to 2020, there was a price increase of what looks like 7,000. So the biggest price hike came from the price increase from 2017 to 2020. Let's have a look at our answer options and try to identify the most appropriate response. So again, yep, it looks like 2017 to 2020 was the best answer because it had the greatest price hike. All right, let's go on to question number 2, which reads, analyze the line graph. Which statement best describes the trend in the price of the Ford F-150 from 1990 to 2020? All right, so we've already looked at this, but again, what we can tell is that there were no decreases in price of Ford F-150s, so it has been a continuous uptick, and we also know that from 1990 to 2011, it was a continuous same rate price increase, and then from 2011 to 2020 had a larger and larger, incrementally larger increase in price. So let's go down and read what this, what their answer options may look like. So the price increased gradually with little fluctuations. Well, that happened for the first, up until I think it was 2011, but then there were kind of some major fluctuations, some major price increases. The price remained constant throughout the period. We know that that's not true. The price showed periodic decreases. We also know that that's not true. The price increased with the most significant rise after 2014, and we know that one to be true after analyzing the data. So let's click the submit button, and nice. 2 out of 2. Good job on that. Now let's move on down to a line plot. And in case you've forgotten what a line plot looks like, it looks like this. We have a similar reference to something like a timetable or a timeline, but in this case, it's not time, such as dates. Instead, this is minutes that we can see moving from left to right. We're increasing in time from left to right and decreasing from right to left. So this would be 6 minutes, 7, 8, 9, 10. I also notice that there is something right in the middle here. So that would be 6.5 minutes, 7.5, 8.5, 9.5, etc. and so forth. And the title is 2024 Coastal Tower Climb Challenge and finish time for top climbers. So all of these must be, all of these runners must be people who have finished the race. So let's go back up. What I like to do, as you can see, is analyze and summarize the data from the visual representation in my own words, and then I like to go back and actually read the information that they provide. And I recommend for you to do the same when you're taking your paraprofessional exam. So this context reads, the annual Coastal Tower Climb Challenge draws participants from around the globe. Competitors race up 980 steps to reach the top of the renowned Ocean View Tower, marking their achievement at the sky-high platform. That sounds exhausting, but kind of fun at the same time. All right, so now let's move on down to question number 1, which reads, how many racers finished the challenge in 8 minutes or less? So oftentimes with numbers, we sort of want more, but in this case, with a race, the people who finished with the fastest will have the smallest time, and they finished with the best. So this question asks, how many racers finished in 8 minutes or less? So that includes 8 minutes. So what we want to do is we want to start at 8 minutes, and we want to count the amount of runners who finished in 8 minutes or under. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Let me just double check that here. All right, we have 8 minutes or less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 and 3 is 9. 9 and 5 is 14. 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so remember, that is a strategy that you'll want to use when you're taking your exam. I know that you're going to be in a rush and you want to complete each question quickly, but you also want to double check, especially when counting or doing some type of math, that you didn't miscount or miscalculate. So let's go down and see if there is 18. Good. There is 18. That gives me some more confidence. And let's read question number 2. Based on the 2024 Coastal Tower Climb Challenge line plot, what is the mode, key term here, for the number of climbers finishing at different times? So what I like to do is I just like to talk my way into what I remember, what I know, and so it helps me understand what question am I asking. Remember, if you receive a question that asks about we have mean, that's average, that's not the mode. Median, again, is the number in the middle after you have organized the data points from smallest to largest. Mode is the number that happens most frequently or most often. So what we want to do is we want to find, for example, at minute 6, there's one person who completed this, but also at minute 9.5, there's one person who completed this. So that could be the mode because I see there's 2. Now let's go, for example, starting at 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 people finished at 12-minute mark, but there are no other amount of time with 10 people. Same with this 11.5 mark, and same with 11. I can see, this is close though. This one right here looks like there's 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be, okay, so looks like 1 and 6 are tied right now. 2 only has at the 10-minute mark, so both 1 and 6 beat 2. And then now let's have a look at 3, which is next. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So the greatest amount of finishers during the same time would be 3, and that would be our mode. Let's go on down and see if there is a 3. There is. Good. Okay, so let's click the submit button. We have scored 2 out of 2. Fantastic job. Fantastic job if you're sticking around with me. Now let's move on to a timeline. All right, so if we can recall, a timeline is a representation that lays out events in a chronological order. Often it's used to track the progression of events, understanding historical contexts, or planning future activities in the sequence that they occurred in. And again, if you receive a question on test day that asks which of the visual representations would be best used in order to show events in a chronological order, then you're going to want to look for an answer option that includes a timeline. All right, so now what we want to do, or what I want to do at least, is look at this timeline first and foremost. I like to look at the overall view. I see that there are 5 data points for this timeline. Starting from 1873, Horace Mann establishes the first state of Board of Education. 1896, John Huey opens the University of Chicago. 1954, the Supreme Court's decision, Brown versus Board of Education, mandates the desegregation of schools. 1983, the publication A Nation at Risk prompts widespread national reforms in education. And then in 2001, the No Child Left Behind Act is signed into law. So it looks like this is all about education. Yep, I see the timeline table reads key developments in educational theory. Okay, now let's go ahead and complete the quiz. Question number 1 reads, according to the timeline, which event occurred first? Okay, so letter A Nation at Risk, could be, that's 1983. Letter B, Supreme Court, that was actually before, so it's going to be B over A. Letter C, John Dewey opens the Chicago laboratory schools, that was before the Supreme Court, so we're going to go mark C. And then letter D, the signing of the No Child Left Behind, that was in 2001, so we're going to keep this at letter C, because what they want is the first or the oldest event that occurred. So let's go on down to question number 2 and read it. What was the most recent event listed in the timeline? Well, I know that from all of them, the most recent list was the No Child Left Behind Act. So let's see if that is, and it is, that is in the answer option. So we're going to click letter D, click our submit button. Again, 2 out of 2. If you're sticking around with me, great job. You are getting these extra minutes in studying for your para-professional exam, and I believe that you are going to pass. All right, so let's go on down and read the next diagram that you're going to want to know for test day. Notice how the diagrams are getting more challenging as we move on. This diagram is called a stem and leaf diagram, or a stem and leaf plot. So what I like to personally do is just look at the visual that we get. So the title reads, Number of Points Lost in Championship Basketball Finals. Now, let me give you a quick masterclass on how to read a stem and leaf plot in case it's been a while. So notice that you have only one horizontal bar. You also have a list of numbers. These are the stems, and these are the leaves. Now, note that each stem connects with one leaf. So 0 and 2 are connected. 0 and 3 are connected. 0 and 5 are connected. So it's not that the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and 9 are connected. Each of these are different events. So for example, if we move down a row, here we have 1. We can kind of think about this like a place value where this is the ones column and this is the tens column. So if 0 and 2 equals 2, 1 and 2 equals 12. So all you do, you're not adding them, you're putting these together. A 1 and a 4 equals 14. A 1 and a 5 is 15. That means if we look at this 1 and 2, for example, that the number of points lost in a championship basketball final, one game was lost by 1 and 2, which is 12, so 12 points. If we go down here, this 2 and 1 is, you're right, 21 and 23. Remember, each of these, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9, these are all different basketball games. So one game was lost by 21 points, one game was lost by 23 points, but these were different games, and so on and so forth. One game was lost by 24 points. And so we can move on down, and 5 and 1 would, of course, be 51. 52, 54, 56, 57, and 59. That means that with a stem and leaf plot, the smallest number will be right here. In this case, it's a 0 and a 2, so that's 2. And the largest number will be right here. That's a 5 and a 9 equaling 59. Good job. All right, so now let's go back up. Now that we have our head wrapped around, we have a good understanding for this stem and leaf plot, let's read the context that we are provided. Over the past 3 decades, several teams have faced heartbreaking losses in the championship finals, with some games being decided by just a few points, while others saw wide margins of defeat. The stem and leaf plot below shows the number of points teams lost by in these final games from 1990 to 2020. Okay, so we have a pretty large list of historical basketball finals that were lost by a certain amount of points. Let's go on down and try and complete these questions. Question 1 reads, what is the smallest value represented in the stem and leaf plot? Now remember, smallest value comes from the least value from the stem and the least value from the leaf. So 0 and 2 is 2. So one championship final was lost by only 2 points. I'm sure that was a heartbreaker for the losing team. I do see a 2 here. That gives me confidence that that is the correct answer. Let's go on down to question number 2. How many data points are greater than or equal to 30? So let's go on down. Let's see if there is a 30. There's no 30 because there's no 0 right here, but there is a 31. So this is 31, 32, 33, 33. Okay, now I also want to bring your attention that there are 2 33s. We can see 3 here and 3 here, and there's no mistake in that. It just means that 2 games were lost by the same amount of points, which happens to be 33 points. So what we want to answer is how many data points, or how many games, as a matter of fact, were lost by 30 or more points. So what we want to do is simply add the different events. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Now, again, what I highly recommend you to do, I know you're going to be trying to beat the clock when taking your paraprofessional exam, but don't make an easy mistake of miscounting or miscalculating. I really highly recommend that you try to complete or calculate or count the answer in a different way and double check that you received the same answer that the first time that you did. So I'm just going to start here and I'm going to count to make sure that I counted correctly. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I believe that's what I said on the first go too. And it is 19 here, so we're going to click the submit button. And again, we scored 2 out of 2. Great job. We have next a diagram called a scatter plot. Let's have a look at this scatter plot. We can see that we have a y-axis, speed, miles per hour, and an x-axis, and this is labeled as animals. This title reads speeds of various animals, and in order to give you a good refresher to remember what a scatter plot is used for, let's read the introduction here. A scatter plot is a graph that shows how 2 different things relate to each other, like our studied and test scores, for example. The dots on the graph can reveal patterns. If one value increases as the other does, it's a positive trend. If one goes up while the other goes down, it's a negative trend, and sometimes there's no clear pattern at all. Again, if on exam day you receive a test question that asks, sort of like riddle style, if there is a visual representation that has an x-axis and a y-axis, and it uses dots in order to find patterns, what are you going to choose? Scatter plot, okay? If on the other hand, you have a question where the teacher is asking themselves, I understand that I have 2 different things, people, objects, places, ideas, that relate to each other, but they're being compared or analyzed, what might be a good visual representation for this? Again, it would be scatter plot. Now, again, that we have a good understanding of what a scatter plot is, we've already looked at the actual scatter plot. Let's go ahead and read the introduction in context about the fastest animals by weight. All right, so speed isn't everything. What if the weight of an animal affects how fast it can go? Some of the world's fastest animals vary greatly in size, from tiny birds to massive marine creatures. The scatter plot will help you analyze whether heavier animals tend to be slower, or if there's no clear trend at all. Now, what I do notice here Even though the introduction mentioned weight, it's not actually mentioned in the scatter plot. And we added this question like this because one of the things that you'll have to do while taking your ParaPro test is you'll want to be able to eliminate information that is unnecessary. Because in this scatter plot, we have speed and we have animals. We don't actually have weight. So let's go ahead down and read the questions as they are stated. What is the fastest land animal in the data set? First of all, I just want to know what the fastest animal in the data set is. And it looks like right here we see this X over 200, looks probably about 250 or so. That is the falcon, but the falcon is not a land animal, so be careful. All right, so land animal, the next fastest animal is the cheetah. The cheetah is a land animal, so I'm going to navigate here and see if there is a cheetah in the answer options. There is. That's a good sign. Let's go on down to question number 2, which reads, how many animals in the data set can run or swim at speeds of 50 miles per hour or more? Okay, run or swim. That means, let's see here, run or swim. Let's go on down here and, all right, so run or swim. All right, so that will not include the falcon because the falcon flies. Run or swim, cheetah runs, and what is it again? It is over 50 miles an hour. Okay, good. So it needs to be over 50 miles an hour and must run or swim. Cheetah is 1, sailfish is 1, ostrich is 1, antelope is another, horse is another, and blue marlin looks like it's right at that 50, so I'm going to count that as 6, and the greyhound looks like less than 50. So we're going to go down to, let's see if there is an answer option of 6. There is. Let's click it, click submit. 2 out of 2. Awesome job with this. This ends our review all about interpreting tables, diagrams, charts, and graphs. Thanks so much for sticking around with me. What you're going to want to do is navigate to lesson number 8, where we now discuss sounding out of words. I'll see you in lesson number 8.